Probably safer because beer, vodka, all that high-ass things man-made, it's not good for you. I mean, even wine to a perception may not be unless it's like natural. It's really, really mild. I mean, they even got non-alcoholic. You just figure out of grapes or something. All I'm saying is humans have got to knock this down a lot. The alcoholisms and the portrayals of what they're doing, especially nowadays, is getting worse. In between the decommissioning of the exactations or putting in these graphite effects and so-called COVID, what is actually, you know what it is. This is the IR elemental bios that are causing a lot of problems upon the commissioning nodes here. Alcohol makes it a lot worse. Drugs make it a lot worse. We don't need both. Humans were not meant for that.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 16. Blue, how are you?
I am well today, Mike.
Awesome. Hey, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, one of the main things that we were going to distribute outwards is the inactive effect of centralized sodium nitrate and bicarbonate products in soda pops as well as other carbonations. And it's dealing with the negative effects that it causes upon one's own system. It causes bloating, the nitrate in it causes helium innovation codes, which pretty much is the same thing as what is helium? Helium is the same doctrine effect, the similar effect itself of something that a balloon is being expanded for. How did humans get in? Especially when you call to those who drink, and I'm saying drinking is negative. We want to get rid of that too. Alcohol, all that. How do you get a beer belly? It's because of the bloat. It's because of the certain nitrates and biotine effects that they are adding, chemicals in it that are messing up one's generative system between two plateaus itself.
Awesome. Hey, before we get going here, why don't you go ahead and click on subscribe and like and notifications. That would help us and it would help you because you'll know next time we release some new information. So, Blue, let's get right into it here. I know we wanted to talk about the Cherokee as well, the Cherokee and the moon-eyed people.
Absolutely.
Who are the moon-eyed people?
Well, they are one of the ancient civilizations of advanced humanoid figures that have existed upon this planetary grid. Now, in recent events into happening, these beings are still here. There are other beings that are still here. They're generated hyper-advanced humanoid statistics that live in caves or other substructures itself because they cannot stand the outlining effect of a daytime. They can only see at night. And if they look in the day, if they even go in the sunlight, it would pretty much put a vaporization note on their eyes. It would cause their eyes to get a bad acidic tone to where it will make it worse. They cannot stand the light whatsoever. They can see in the dark. They live in the dark. They're white skinned. They're short. Have bright blue eyes. Like I said, they have advanced technologies and they run on their own civilizations. The responsive events of civilization coding went to like the star gods itself, except these beings, what I am portraying to the moon-eyed people, they live on this planetary grid or live in the in-between parallel effects. The star gods and what the other Native American tribes would run into come down from an upwards effect, from a higher terrestrial motivational code, not from here and have lived upon here. It also circulates in a symbolizing what extraterrestrials, like certain reptilians, have their own tribes and have worked with the Native American Indians too. But the moon-eyed people themselves, it is one of the many types of civilizations including the Anke, replications of the ancient Egyptian civilizations, including other civilizations that went through ancient Mayans and reroute coding effects that went through Mount Shasta, as well as, if I'm not mistaken, Mammoth Cave. There was a couple there too. These are beings that have lived either underground or in an in-between parallel path.
Are these beings still with us today?
Yes, but they, like I said, their extension core processing unit with the Native Americans, the Cherokees, the Native Americans at the time, long time ago, they decommissioned them out. They went onto the lands. And there have been Europeans that have gone onto the lands and onto this lands or other lands, wherever, and have pretty much correlated taking away these species or getting rid of these doctrines of facts, moving them out of the way because they're in their way. They want to take that land, or they feel that they couldn't cooperate with them and push them out of extension. You got to think about, well, how did that happen with Atlantis? How did that city sink in the first place? How did certain other civilizations happen to just look like something blew it up or something happened there really bad? You can't just figure it out. This is one of the types of things, the understanding is that when it comes to one generative effect and the other, sometimes it just doesn't work out.
So the Moon-Eyed people, that was a good thing for us then.
Well, they had their own thing, but they were kind of like shoved away, and now they're in hiding. They're in hiding because they kind of really don't trust the way humans are currently, and you kind of can't blame them because if Bigfoot have been the same way. They were disrespected. They were respected through native tribes, but then again, they were disrespected by the normalcy of other types of people being integrated here, and it pushed them away. You got to understand it. There are other DNA formational codes that would more than anything to be able to get out of hiding if humans can just replicate their own neural standards into effect better and maybe have a better understanding of between what's good, what's bad, and what's in between.
Now, the Moon-Eyed people and the Cherokee, is this something that we can find like on some sort of documentation or some sort of some sort of writings on the walls and so forth, pictures? Is that, do we see that represented?
Well, it's also, if you look it up online, it talks about that too online. I'm not sure there are writings on walls and fortifying pieces and scripts everywhere because they do make cave encryptions with tribes. Tribes have a tendency of doing that. And it also goes into context, and good point put there, Mike, because sometimes they put a code and a clue in that context with these Native American Indians, the older generation ones, not the ones currently. The ones that have left that will put in a trail of what happened between them and these advanced civilizations that they may have been against or worked with at the time.
Interesting stuff. You look back at history all the time, and history is written by the victors. History is written by the people who win. So our history may not be what we think it is all the time. So it's interesting to hear things like this about the Moon-Eyed people, because I had never heard of that before. What's going on with the sun, though? Recently, there's been some activity with the sun. I mean, I'm talking the sun, not my child. I'm talking the sun.
Yes, the electromagnetic polarity lines have both extended to the perimeters and in between lapse format. But the sun's outlet and the frequency that a database trains, especially recently within the last probably 3 to 4 months, when the core's reversal has started an calculation code of moving the other way of the Earth, with both between those outlets and the actuality lines of the generative nodes of the higher terrestrial movement waves of the plateaus of the sun generating a higher vortex scan maintains 2 different portrayals of effect. One can be maintained at the next generative wave phase of geometric storms or data streams or electromagnetic streams being an outstanding preliminary line. This type of outstanding preliminary line could hit a generative wave effect like us, or inertially move its own wave like even up more for those of the starseeds and the generational codes that are inducted through that. The high impact could also cause a generate a negative effect, and that type of negative effect is more or less because of HAARP and the streams that they are causing on an inoculated type of vortex they are evangelizing for. The electromagnetic data streams and the polarity lines that hit to the higher circulatory codes, they impact through storm rectifications, denunciating upon the electromagnetic grid itself, and fortifying a bad replication process upon the water streams, the weather streams, the electric streams, all of those goes into what is impacting upon their negative data stream. Our own through the force is more or less a contact and a defensive unit of an aeronautic defense, a central core into these type of star units that we represent against that own data stream itself. So you're thinking about when the sun symbolizes these higher harmonic polytones, so pretty much polarizes these electromagnetic interference storms out. It's not just because they're storms that are pretty much blowing outwards of perception. It causes a disturbance, and as well as an impact can play vital roles behind the scenes between two parties against each other. And when people don't understand what the effective thing it does for this, it can cause different types of phases to go into that timeline, depending on where it's going to head for next.
I've heard of a solar storm or sunspot. I've heard of these things affecting like radio waves here. If you do anything with radio, sometimes certain times of day, like they can predict when these things are happening. I knew that was a possibility, but you're suggesting that this could affect the grid, our electromagnetic grid, or the way we receive.
It's all similar. It all coincides with each other. The electromagnetic grid does connect to the Wi-Fi, connects to the electronics. It connects also to the elementals and the core infrastructure of the humans itself and the biometric nodes of the lower capsulized beings. It can affect everything. You got to understand that the distribution lines that go into the aether source itself can maintain a preliminary scale of what goes on between the solar networks and the lunar networks.
Does this have any effect on maybe our automobiles as well? Because a lot of those have computers in them. Would they be affected as well?
Well, with these geometric storms in place and the way it's inoculating towards mankind because of the force reversal and because of this type of inlet can maintain a higher stability to your own waves, but it could cause a decommission. That's why when we announced about quantum and the insurgence waves of maybe the technologies that could be placed for that, it could be maintained as soon as possible because the replication codes of the electronics and the electromagnetic grid, including the so-called vehicles, electric vehicles that they're putting out now, it's not going to work out very well when there's a lot of interference going on.
This interference we're talking about, I don't want to alarm people, but at the same time, I want to give as accurate information as we can. Is there a projection or a time frame, or is there, so you're 100% sold this is gonna affect us, or this can affect us? Where are we at there?
Well, these type of inlet frequency storms are already affecting mankind. But depending on that, and like I said, HAARP has a lot to do with the negatively impacting between that effect on their own wavelength. It's already into this decommissioning node or recommissioning node of what's being photonically happening here. It's been this way for quite a while, probably within the last few years, but it's starting to extend more on a preliminary scale within the last month or two. So it's getting higher in the effect radius.
What can I do as a normal, average, everyday Joe? Is there anything I can do, or do I just have to be ready to be without power and be without my vehicle? I mean, what is there anything else I can do?
Well, setting an example, maybe maintainment of solar identification codes of using something that you could use for solar technology at the time, or maintaining your higher base status of what you can do on your own generated plateau, using your own mind and maintaining that. Because there's going to come a time where we're all going to move to quantum. We're going to move to a timeline where humans will be able to upgrade and extend their platforms of effect. But until then, it's like an up and down scenario. And until we can remove the negative aspects out of this realm, it's going to be that way. We're working very hard to maintaining a better stability upon this planet until then.
You know, and it just, I was talking to a friend of mine recently about, they were asking me what my thoughts were on currency, on our dollars and on our money and so forth. I know it's a little off topic, but they were asking me what I thought the best direction would be. And I said to diversify, not have all your eggs in one basket, gold, silver, you know, just try to spread things out a little bit. Is that what we're looking at here? I should have maybe some backup plans here for myself. Like I go back, we have this little weather radio and it works like with a hand crank, it develops things. So we're saying don't rely 100% on the grid. You need to have things spread out a little bit. Another quick example, I have a neighbor of mine who has a electric vehicle, has a Tesla, and he loves it. He enjoys it. And I was talking to him not long ago about it. And I said, well, you know, what do you think this is the future? And he goes, no. And I said, well, why do you have one then? And he said, this is what I use. This is my around town, my grocery getter and stuff. And he points and he has a Suburban parked right next to it, a big bus looking thing. He goes, this is what I use if I'm going somewhere far, going somewhere on a road trip or whatever. So I see he has alternatives. He has a couple different ways to go to. I'm just in fear that those gasoline vehicles, those petrol, powered engines, because of the computer technology in them nowadays, you almost have to have an older vehicle. Like an older vehicle might work better without computers and so forth. Or maybe I don't see how we can get around this computers in the car thing.
Well, it's like I said, there are ways that do, especially do what Elon Musk would be attributing soon, and others in simulation of what an anti-gravity pod unit or a Neuralink standard would equate for. Neurally linking your mind into a better inlet, like hyper technologies, or portraying into a more advanced system itself.
Is there something that we can do as far as this is going to sound crazy, but we've talked about beings being inside the planet or underneath the ground here on Earth. Are they at an advantage in a situation like this because they won't necessarily be affected, or will they be affected as well?
They could be affected because there are negative beings here too. But they also have a backup plan. There are portal extenders that radiate throughout the entire realm itself that can equalize a frequency outlet between one and the other within seconds. It's like I had mentioned that humans will have something similar to this soon. These types of portals, so they don't have to overpopulate with so much vehicle statistics here.
We talked a lot about the sun here and about the effects on the grid, but there's some chemical things that are going on that we can address here, like this sodium nitrate and things you addressed at the very beginning of the show. Explain again, please. Tell me more about this. I know soda's bad for me, but I mean, what else is there?
Well, the sodium nitrate or the bicarbonate sodium nitrate is a poisoning attribution that could cause bloating. It could cause headaches because of the excess sugar they put in. They had too much sugar, and when you had too much sugar, that's a man-made substance to another generated plateau. Especially nitrate itself, it could cause a bad repercussion upon oneself. And a high amount of acid as well with it. You got to understand, especially with Dr. Pepper or Coca-Cola or what, if you add something to it, it's going to eat it away. It's got so much acid in it don't understand it. It eats away the digestive tract. That's one reason why people have so many problems with their stomach, why they have so many problems with their digestive, especially if they're drinking soda or it's drinking some types of liquids that are just not meant for them, or foods. And it poisons you even more. I'm going to be honest with you. Alcohol is never a good thing for mankind. If it was, it needs to be taken down to such a disposition where it's very, very low, very close to just like a mild wine. Because they're poisoning humans even with that. There's a lot of nitrate even in that. You remember flipping open a can of beer, someone drinks, you hear the sound, but you hear the air.
Yeah,
that's got that nitrate in it. That's got that helium in it. That's got that helium bicarbonate nitrate in it already. Even if it doesn't fizz up like regular soda, some beers still do. They have that in it. It's bad for you. It's why people have beer bellies. Beer bellies are a bad definition code because of this. It could actually blow someone's stomach up.
You had mentioned briefly their wine, and it takes me back because even in back in the days that we understand that when the Bible reflects on things in the Old Testament or what have you, they drank wine, and my understanding was they drank wine because the water wasn't always safe, because they didn't have proper sanitation, they didn't have proper waste disposal and so forth. So they made wine because the alcohol would kill a lot of germs, and they knew that it was safer to drink wine. So you are suggesting though that wine is safe or safer?
Probably safer, because beer, vodka, all that high ass things man-made, it's not good for you. I mean, even wine to a perception may not be, unless it's like natural. It's really, really mild. I mean, they even got non-alcoholic. Just figure out of grapes or something. All I'm saying is humans have got to knock this down a lot. The alcoholisms and the portrayals of what they're doing, especially nowadays, is getting worse. In between the decommissioning of the exactations or putting in these graphite effects and so-called COVID, what is actually, you know what it is. This is the IR elemental bios that are causing a lot of problems upon the commissioning nodes here. Alcohol makes it a lot worse. Drugs make it a lot worse. We don't need both. Humans were not meant for that.
You know, it's almost ironic because you think about a lot of things that we have in our everyday lives. You talk about fire, for instance. Well, fire can be bad or fire can be good. It depends on how you use it. I'm suggesting the same thing with alcohol, because alcohol does have some good properties. You can run an automobile on alcohol. So with that in mind, it's no wonder it's not real safe to drink. My question is we can't do away with alcohol, but we can effectively use it a little better, is what we're suggesting.
We can start, yes. Because right now it's not doing that. Right now it's going in reverse. We all know that's going in reverse. It's getting worse. I mean, with this Bud Light thing, I'm sorry, I'm going to be honest with you, about someone posting about transgenders or something with the Bud Light.
Yeah.
Come on. Promotion of a negative aspect is not going to promote the whole planet to a positive aspect.
It's almost ironic that you see commercialization like that, and then I think back to, and we'll pick on Anheuser-Busch here for a minute. I used to drink alcohol. I used to drink beer. I've been a little over 4 years and 8 months or so without drinking any alcohol. And it was just a decision I made one day. And there's been times I've wanted to grab a beer or something, but I've resisted because I don't want to eliminate the progress I've made so far. Even when I tell myself, well, I should be responsible enough and I should be able to handle it. There's no reason why I can't. But then again, I don't want to erase the progress I've made already. So it's almost like the commercialization and the popularization. You think back years ago, Budweiser used to have the little frogs. They had the guys on the phone, "What's up?" and things like that. It's almost like that commercialization is necessary for us to consume alcohol. Now, I'm not suggesting that we wouldn't consume alcohol without it. It's just in the masses that we consume alcohol. It's a huge industry worldwide, but especially in this country. They're able to sponsor all sorts of sporting events. It's a cash cow. It's a giant cash cow. If we start to eliminate some of these things, some of the commercialization, do you think that would help?
Yes, obviously, because it's the mind and neural ensnarement, though, similar to what weather for the people in the weather channels or news or what if you not. It's similar to that. It's just all in a mind ensnarement. Doesn't need to be capsulized. What humans really need to learn and understand and put betterment for themselves and each other is to get out and about in life, not put something that's going to bring you down and put you in a box. Humans were not meant to be in a box. They were not meant to be ensnared like that. They were meant to have higher knowledge. That's why they were created from higher terrestrials. That's why they have the DNA in them. They're going to lose the fear on DNA otherwise.
My concern is that there's a possibility that people will just switch to another substance. And the fear there is because there's a situation in Vancouver, Canada right now, okay? They've always been real lenient citywide. They're one of the more progressive cities. I've visited there. People were just, and I'm okay with people smoking weed. You do whatever you want to do, but how open and how carefree it was. They have just initiated things like cocaine is now legal there. You can go into a store, just like you can go into a weed dispensary store and you can buy coke. They have heroin injection sites, which we're starting to develop in this country as well. Do you think if people started to go away from alcohol, they would just switch to another substance?
Even like I said, drugs, those substances don't need to be either. I could be honest that marijuana could be a good effect for humans because some, like us beings, can generate on that plateau and it doesn't affect us because it does a good thing. But to others, it doesn't. Most humans, it dumbs them down, like makes them fat because they eat too much, all this and that. There's a way DNA circulated to bring that back intact again for everyone. Yes, that would probably be the only thing if they can maintain that part because it's a healing property. It's a natural herb. But all this other bull crap needs to go. The man-made stuff it does no good. Especially with these fake candy pills they're bringing in. The fentanyl. Come on.
Yeah.
And, I have to mention to you one more thing. You need to be concerned. You need to stay away from the drugs. Because they're making these things just to get rid of you all. Especially the zombie drug. Don't know if you heard about that, Mike. But it's real.
I've heard a little bit.
Zombie drug is real. They have SWAT teams. They have SWAT teams that physically come out around here that have that seal that says zombie SWAT.
Wow.
That's reality. So people don't do shit like that. You're going to end up that way. You're going to end up in something you don't want to be.
Well, like one of the big radio icons I listened to back in the day, Jim Phillips used to say, everything in moderation. So I think that, we're just in a bad spot in the world right now. And I'm thankful to have someone like yourself be able to point a lot of these things out in a lot of direction. Let's talk briefly about your position with the Space Force and the Federation from that standpoint. Are there any words that you can offer from your position with the Space Force and the Federation?
Yes. From what one of my unit members has portrayed to me, that us Starseeds, and including the lower effects, maintain your code of ethics. Maintain what your Aether score can deal with. Because I'm going to tell you and be honest with you right now, the negative beings, because of their graphene iode effects and what they're accumulating with that, and the cold would make the accumulation worse. On humans and Pac-Man codes would make it more sick. Got to get the heat, natural heat substance ways to maintain your coat. Vitamin D, like I said, the sun, solar rays would help. But the coding effect is this: if you're being demanualized, and you're being dereplicated upon your own being because of these biogeneric elemental wars that are currently being placed upon this realm. You have a way to maintain your stability through it. You have a way to work around this and generate your own plateau again better. Generate what your Aether Spore can do for you. Everyone has a higher being amongst themselves. They have their own generative soul that, from what God, the source itself, the infinitum, would say, you are well-developed beings. Use your well-developed senses. The well-developed senses can be maintained for what you can be for your next generation. And that's why in the Space Force Department, we have a higher ability score to make sure that this next generation is placed. But it is up to mankind for them to have their understanding and get outside of their little boxes.
And that's awesome. How about a final word for today?
Yes, absolutely, Mike. When things go down south, you get back up. When you get back up, you find another way to motivate yourself. And as well with that, to those that are, and including the quantum med betrayal things, patience. That will come soon. We all have the steps we must take to move this forward. Let's take it and move it forward like we're supposed to. Onwards and upwards.
Wonderful stuff. Again, Blue, I want to thank everybody for watching and listening to episode 16. And as I always do, you may want to go back and listen again, because sometimes you'll pick up on something you missed the first time there, and that's okay. Make sure you hit like and subscribe and click on the notifications wherever you are. And of course, we like engaging with you on the socials as well, on Facebook, on Twitter, and so forth. So go ahead and reach out to us there if you'd like as well. Blue, thank you very much. Wonderful stuff again. I look forward to next time.
Thank you, Mike. Have a good day.